There is a name that has appeared in demonic texts for over 400 years. Scholars documented it, priests studied it, and exorcists refused to speak it aloud. That name is Valak. Most people think the nun invented it. They are wrong. The real Valak was recorded in 1577 by a Dutch physician cataloging spirits of hell.
He was not a believer. He was trying to stop witch trials tearing through Europe.
And even he was careful about how he wrote the name down in those original texts. In those original texts, Valak is not a nun, not a woman, not a shadow. It is not anything you have seen on a screen. It is described as a child with wings, riding a two-headed dragon, commanding 30 legions of lesser spirits. The Church knew about it. The Vatican had files on it. Still, for centuries, the name stayed buried in seminary libraries, where most people would never find it. Then the Warrens found it. Ed and Lorraine Warren spent 50 years investigating cases the Church wouldn't touch publicly. They walked into homes where families had stopped sleeping, where children spoke in voices that didn't belong to them, where priests left mid-investigation and never came back. And somewhere inside those files was something that followed them home. Lorraine was alone in her bedroom when the temperature dropped without reason. A rhythmic pounding started inside the walls, steady and deliberate, like something marking time. Then a black mass entered the room, larger than a man, moving toward her. She said it was trying to pull her soul out of her body. She survived. That night became the seed of the most successful horror franchise in cinema history. It reached a film set in Romania, where crew members refused to enter certain rooms after dark. It reached federal court, where a judge was asked to rule on whether demons are real. The judge never answered, and Warner Brothers settled out of court rather than find out. This is the real story, and it is worse than the movie. The name Valak first appeared in print in 1577, when a Dutch physician named Johann Weyer wrote it down, in a book called Pseudo-Monarchia Daemonum. Weyer wasn't a true believer. He was trying to stop the witch trials tearing through Europe. His argument was calculated. If demons already had names, ranks, and rules, then ordinary women couldn't summon them. So he listed 72 spirits, their powers, their weaknesses, their hierarchies. Valak was number 62. The book described Valak as a president of hell, commanding 30 legions of lesser spirits. In Roman military terms, that's roughly 150,000 soldiers answering to one entity. But the physical description bears no resemblance to any nun. Weyer described Valak as a small child with wings, mounted on a two-headed dragon, a summoner of serpents, and a revealer of hidden treasure. That last detail is what most people miss entirely. Valak wasn't catalogued as a destroyer. It was considered useful. Medieval occultists believed it could lead a person directly to buried gold. The most feared demon in modern horror cinema was, historically, a glorified treasure map. The Lesser Key of Solomon confirmed the entry in the mid-1600s. And for 400 years, the name existed in texts, libraries, and seminary classrooms. Not once does Valak wear the habit of a nun. That image came from somewhere else entirely. Long before the Warrens, there was a rectory in Essex, England. Reverend Henry Bull built it in 1862, and the locals called it cursed. Medieval records suggested a Benedictine monastery once stood on the land beneath it. And with it, a story. A monk and a nun fell in love. They were caught.
Medieval records suggested a Benedictine monastery once stood on the land beneath it.
Whether this is true has never been confirmed, but the sightings started almost immediately. In July 1900, 4 sisters of the Bull family saw a figure in a nun's habit moving slowly across the lawn. They approached her. She vanished. All 4 signed written accounts of what they witnessed. After months of investigation, he made one public statement. He called it the most haunted house in England. The Warrens visited Borley in the 1970s, though nobody hired them, and nobody called for help. They went as pilgrims. Lorraine described making contact with the apparition, saying the nun felt sorrowful and trapped, a soul that couldn't leave and didn't understand why. But the figure that ended up on screen wasn't the Borley nun. Something darker found Lorraine first, inside her own home. It was the kind of evening that made you remember why you moved here. Peaceful, idyllic, and perfectly still. Ed said it was the most genuinely evil location he had ever entered. The room was warm, and the house was quiet. Then the temperature dropped, instantly, not gradually.
The kind of cold that doesn't come from an open window.
The pounding started next, steady and rhythmic, coming from inside the walls, deliberate, like something counting. A black mass drifted through the doorway, larger than any person, rotating slowly as it moved. Lorraine described a presence inside it, not a shape, not a face, but a will. Something that knew she was there and had come specifically for her. She felt it reach inside her chest, not through her skin, but through something she couldn't name.
She believed it was trying to separate her soul from her body, and she couldn't move, couldn't call for Ed.
Then it stopped. The mass receded, the cold lifted, and Ed found her sitting rigid in the bed. The incident appeared years later in Gerald Brittle's 1980 book, The Demonologist. When a renowned filmmaker interviewed the lead investigator, she described the anomaly.
Juan's problem was simple.
A swirling black mass looks cheap on camera. He needed something physical, so he chose a nun, and not randomly. The investigator was a person of deep faith, and a dark, mysterious presence would challenge the core of her beliefs. What almost nobody knows is that Valak wasn't in the original Conjuring 2 screenplay at all. The nun appeared briefly in the background of a test screening.
An audience reaction was so strong, the studio ordered reshoots.
The most recognizable horror villain of the last decade was a background accident. And the real case files contained things far darker than anything the reshoots captured. In the summer of 1980, an 11-year-old boy named David Glatzel began having nightmares, describing a disfigured figure at the foot of his bed, breathing, watching, waiting. Within weeks, he was quoting the Bible and Milton's Paradise Lost, books he had never read and didn't own.
His family called a priest, then another, and eventually they called the Warrens.
Bishop Robert McKenna performed a series of exorcisms on David, and 42 witnesses signed their names to accounts of what they observed.
During one session, a young man told the entity to leave his friend alone and focus on him instead. On a winter day, a sudden and violent confrontation occurred between two individuals, resulting in a tragic loss of life with no clear motive.
His defense attorney entered a plea never before used in an American courtroom: not guilty by reason of demonic possession.
The judge rejected it before the trial began, and Johnson served 5 years for first-degree manslaughter.
Brother Carl Glatzel Jr. accused the Warrens of exploiting a mentally ill child, claiming they promised the family fame, money, and Johnson's freedom.
The monastery at Kırca still stands, and tourists visit now because of the film.
The Nun made $365 million. The real story cost considerably more than that. And unlike the film, it doesn't have an ending.